Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the new week, Fed week, uh, earnings reports, economic reports, excuse me. So should get some volatility. And starting the week with Bitcoin breaking these lows here. It's just the start of the move down. You can see it's just been slopping back and forth. Dan says there's no sound. What is going on here? Can anybody hear me? Yes. Okay, cool. Okay, so Dan probably has you muted. All right, no problem. All right, so starting to get a breakdown, and reminder, this is the beginning of a bar. It could turn into a bottoming tail bar. So it's not a tight breakdown, but it's not a bad one. And the reason it's not a bad one to consider, I mean, if it was, I'm not saying you're going to trade these Bitcoin futures. Sometimes they're not so liquid when I see sometimes, but anyway, other instruments. Let me tell Dan. Why isn't it so bad? I'm always a little leery of breakdowns and breakouts, but anyway, you can always do a smaller position with a larger stop, right? So first of all, you got to avoid big move up, pivot high, pivot high, pivot high. The third one is a wide range bar and a move down. So a lot of excitement that it was going higher, a lot of disappointment. And then at the pivot lows, it just gets tightened up here and you got a topping tail bar, kind of a little mini breakout failure and then down. So that's supportive that it can go lower. And I'm explaining this because you can apply this to anything you're looking at. A chart's a chart, and that doesn't matter. And it's got room to go down. But now I'm thinking sometimes, Bitcoin does have some correlation. It hasn't recently to the broader markets. And so I'm just thinking, hey, could this start to drag things down? So, hey, we'll see. Internals, we said over a week ago, I think it was right around here, that they had reached an extreme. Be careful. And then we got this little breakout failure. You can see on the S&Ps. I got an alert down below the wide range bar. So there's some support there, a cluster of bars. Keep an eye on that. You can see as they were, things were up a little bit here, really not a big deal. So this is certainly not over. Keep that in mind. And with all the economics, earnings, Fed, there's no reason to think that there's going to be, I think, a move, a substantial move until we get past some of this. So let's see where things are at here this morning. And gap up a little bit inside the range, nothing. It hasn't reached what should be its destination, give or take 460. We'll see if it could actually get up there. The momentum stalled last week. Not unusual after a wide range bar. So that's actually, I got this on the monthly. Let's go to a weekly. I wanted to be able to. Yeah. So there's congestion there. This was the wide range bar somewhere in here where it went up. And Friday, things backed off a little bit. So nothing wrong, still in a tight uptrend. There's support down here. Here's the big bar from a week before last. Cursor should line up. Why that one isn't moving? I have to make some adjustment here. I'll do that later. So this congestion right here is an important area because once it breaks, it confirms this as a breakout failure. Right now, I'm looking at this as kind of a potential breakout failure, just because it's retracing in, but it could flip right back up here, and start moving. So right in the middle of nowhere lands. So got support down below here at 450. give or take, but it is at the bottom of the wide range bar on the daily chart. And so when you get a move up and you get a continuation pattern, it's a short-term bearishness to go back under the breakout bar since it had a resting period here. But we'll see. John, on Tesla, I'll let Dan get to that in a little bit. John, when he comes on, we can take a look at that for you. All right, so let's go to the futures, go to our factory work, and it's going nowhere, nothing. Here's what I had it on the monthly. This is at this pivot high here. The futures already reached that pivot high. S&Ps have not. A lot of times the futures move a little further. I always like to see, are they anticipating and getting there sooner or lagging? So they got there sooner, which is confirming the bullishness right now. And you see the move, congestion, continuation, the void below, the mess that's going on right now. Ideally, what we want in a situation like this is for it to pull back into an area of support that provides us with opportunities to buy, since it's in an uptrend. Ideally, it doesn't pull back in a violent way, but we'll see what it is. Now, the other scenario would be if it did dip down and like we got a bottoming tail bar here, that could be a continuation. But right now, we really have nothing other than to believe that some kind of mild corrective price action is going to continue until we see something else. So which means limited downside, probably limited upside. And you can see the ranges have been relatively small. And from one point of view, that it's a good thing in that when you see the ranges are relatively small or equal in range, it communicates that there's certainty in what is happening in the moment, whether that's going up or down. When you see a wide range bar, right, like let's say this spikes up and you get a wide range bar, too many got excited about it, and that typically marks a high point. We're waiting to see what it's going to do. Pull back, give us a new opportunity for swing longs, or are they so bullish that it doesn't pull back at all and then it spikes up maybe on some news, and that marks a short-term top? And as I already pointed out, the internals were already telling us, be a little careful here. One of the things to look for here in this breath is, let's just say it chops around here, doesn't do much of anything, and we'll see what happens later in the week. This pulls back toward the zero line, so it doesn't get down to the bullish level. Pulling back to the zero line historically does line up with a guide as to where to be thinking about buy. We'll see if that plays out this week. SPX. I would like to see what Jake has. He's got 45.05. Maybe things dipped a little bit or anticipating a little bit lower below here. So I don't see any reason for it to go up. I think there's some news coming out at, I don't know if it's a market mover, 9:45, PMI flash, S&P Global Composite PMI flash, manufacturing. So keep that in the back of your mind. 9:45, there could be some jiggles from that news. And so a little below here would be ideal if you can get 45.05. Say the market dips first thing at the open, getting a little bit below this congestion. Sometimes I call that a line of defense. So these overlapping bars are definitely your line of defense, and you can see the pivot lows here on the hourly there. We're saying 45.75. Yeah, up above there would be good, of course, and you got the pivot high up there. So another line of defense. Yeah, I mean, iron condor. I mean, it's been working. I mentioned it last week as an idea, and it has been working because the ranges have been pretty tight. I marked this off last week as a guide down here with the percentage of the correction, what it would be, give or take from that little doji bar's close. So it would be less than 3%. And that's pretty typical in a bullish trend, that a 3% pullback, and it was to mark off where would that be? At the, just happens to line up at the rising 20 MA. There's an unfilled gap here. So different reasons to believe that if we did get a pullback into here, buyers would be willing to step up. Minor support is up above. And, McGraw, you mentioned, and I've mentioned how these option, institutions, whatever, have been moving out further into the expirations. And this 4,400 seems to be a major line in the sand. 53 days out, 4,400 puts and calls are relatively equal. And that tends to be like a pretty solid wall, down here at this 4,400 in this unfilled gap that could, if there was a sharp pullback, I would have to think that that's going to be a very significant level where everybody starts to blink as to, can it really go lower or not? Or, yeah. And McGraw's shifting, sharing with me 44.75 put level for Wednesday, FOMC day. So you can see down here where my cursor is, just above major support. So when you got, and for those of you that aren't aware, so if there's a large interest in put options expiring on that day down at this level, it's going to tend to be a level of support, right? So, and it's sharing 44.60, 44.55, double strike. So there's plenty of support underneath based on option analysis, based on our trend analysis, based on gaps, minor support. So when you have a unified view based on different methods of analysis, it adds to the conviction that buyers are going to step up in this area if it pulls back to there. Okay. Jerry's saying, could that be a potential 1, 2, 3, even if it's coming off of resistance in an uptrend for ES? But I'd like to know. So a bearish 1, 2, 3 has to start with a wide range bar. Right? So that's not a wide range bar. This is just momentum stalling, and it begins to turn down. Now, looking at everything that I've explained to everyone and Jerry, this consolidation, and this bar is just beginning, right? This daily time frame, this bar is just beginning. If you were to short this under this low, from a daily chart perspective, I mean, your stop's got to be up here. This is an uptrend. You're betting against the odds, and you got support not far below. Now, considering the whole discussion where this is and support kind of relatively close, if you were to start seeing things develop on the intraday timeframes, and you said, well, if this broke here, right, these pivots looking for it to go lower and trading it from a 5-minute or whatever, that would be a reasonable strategy, but not from the daily time frame. All right, let me continue because it's getting a little long here. So this is what it's still an uptrend, but that's a wide range bar. It just jumps in your face and says, hey, I'm big compared to what preceded it. But it's in an uptrend, and minor support is right here. You could get whipsawed. Whereas if this was in a downtrend and breaking below a base and there's a void below, right? So these concepts that Dan and I talk about every Wednesday in MT Live, trend, support, resistance, voids, bar by bar, and so on, creates strategies and a bias as to, how you're going to trade something. Whereas if you get just a pattern without the, view of the trend, support, and resistance, you can get smacked around pretty good. Right? All right, so this pulling back to minor support, rising 20 MA. The Russell is already up at resistance. It backed off last week. This is still in an uptrend. Got a cluster of support here. So this doesn't, at this time, suggest any kind of moves of significance yet. The Dow clearly is stalling in momentum. However, it did break out of this consolidation and hit, well, I got that red area up there. There's another pivot, as you can see over there to the left. This looks vulnerable to a pullback, strong move up. The momentum is slowing and hasn't violated a prior bar's low yet. So scenarios like this, just pointing out the pattern, if this was a stock or SPX, if it had this pattern, it guides you to call spread bias, getting some juice, up here, because the probability of continuing higher with this pattern is relatively low. Right. Interest rates, not doing much of anything. They're bouncing off of support. We anticipated that just because we looked to the left. Transports, still strong. Momentum is slowing. Haven't reached ultimately the prior pivot high up there. So there is room to the upside. We'll see if it actually gets there. Crude oil up here a little bit. Look at that, starting to move up. Right. There's a mess of a bottom here. And then we got our ETF letter into USO a little while ago and looking for this to go higher. So that's looking good. We're starting to move above this pivot high here. And gold up a little bit, starting to pull back and looking for confirmation of, the Fed's going to raise interest rates. Last I look at that CME portal, there was like 99 point something percent that they're going to do it on Wednesday. So, the dollar, which got shellacked a bit on the thought, oh, maybe they're done. It's still just in a trading range on the weekly time frame. So it should start to move up. And the 13-week, you can see it's starting to inch up there a little bit. All yours, Dan. Whew.
Good morning. I see Qs and spiders perking their head right now on the 5-minute chart into the open. But yeah, I don't know why I'm having two screens. All right, block here. Okay, so this is the proper one. All right, so yeah, very big week of news. Greg mentioned the Fed. We got the biggest number of S&P 500 companies reporting this week. We have a big OEX expiration again. We have some inflation numbers coming, I think, on Thursday, though, so after the Fed decision. But things are bullish here. I have a huge watch list. Let's see, YouTube's asking about Tesla slowing momentum. Well, yeah, of course, it's starting Thursday, Wednesday was slowing momentum. Thursday was a big accident day and semis and FANG stocks. We were saying, look at Meta too. The biggest 2 days of selling on this whole chart. And so that's, that's a sign of the big boys are trying to lock in some profits too. Trying to still out, but you can't deny that that's selling right there. But Tesla, yeah, we mentioned Tesla at the call spread on Thursday also. It's gapping down here now, not bouncing much. So sure, it looks like a day trade short watch. Sure. I see in the FANG department, Google up the most actually. That could be a day trade long. Gapping up here to Friday's high. 30-minute high, that is a void for a day trade, sure. It's a buy setup, sloppy buy setup. All right, let's see, there's a couple earnings here. DPZ, was down earlier, so I was going to watch it for kind of an M top, but now it's back up. We'll come back to you. Bow up a little bit. Bank of Hawaii. DX. 1282. Wow, look at this. Look at this W pattern on the monthly. So 30-minute high. This is a long watch. They can hold these gains. HBT, no volume. Hope. I don't see a gap. We'll come back. 8.25. No void, no pattern. No volume. Mattel. This is the first time I looked at Mattel. Like it was their movie, the Barbie movie, and I'm just assuming that it ripped like this and into anticipation of that movie, but it had a nice weekend debut. McGraw said he really enjoyed it. I don't know what to do with this pattern though, but Mattel is strong. CBX. No, McGraw did. CBX 160, gap into the top of the range. I looked to see if there was 150. No, I'm kidding. I was looking if there's any juice down here. This would be a no-brainer put spread. All the oil ETFs are up, but nothing there. UPS having more union problems. 184. AJG got positive Barron's mention. It's bullish, daily, weekly, monthly. I'm surprised with positive Barron's. I don't see any pre-market. I'm going to put this in another window, though. It looks good. AJG. American Express got a downgrade. Had earnings on Friday, is why it got whacked. Just gap into the bottom of the range, though. I don't know what to do with that. EFX, I think, got a downgrade. That also had, this was an earnings disaster on Thursday. It still is very bearish on daily and 15-minute, but see it here at 208. I would love for it to have like a waterfall down to 200, maybe even the 200 MA or $200. And then we'll just sit back, wait for like an hourly reversal. And then that will be an awesome put spread candidate. XPO is another shipper. So with XPO down and UPS down, probably going to drag the transports down at the open. I don't know if this is earnings or something else, but that's a Bear Island reversal now with 4 bars. You could have multiple bars for an island reversal. There's no magic number, but you just need to see daylight on the left and right. And gap in the 6250, that's a Bear Island reversal. It's bearish. So that would be a call spread candidate. So these medical devices, I wrote down a couple of them here. ALB, SYK. I set an alarm at 297. ZBH, I have an alarm 143. ENO, let me put one right now, 6580, if I didn't already. Echo Whiskey, I posted over this 15-minute pivot. It has earnings on Wednesday, but there's juice at the $85 level. So I'll be looking to sell a put there if it triggers. MDT, I have an alarm. So medical's good. Daily, weekly, monthly, bullish. Medtronic. I don't know what's happened with this thing, but this PKX is a gap and crap candidate. Man, look at the volume. This thing trades weird. Look at this little top and tail on volume, and look how well the gap's skewing the data here. It's scrunching it. But that is a monster gap. Look at SCU 1092. Now see, ideally, I would love this just to gap the $10 and then take out a 30-minute high. Look at the monthly on this thing. This I don't know where it has room to, but it has a big old void bottoming pattern, maybe 14, 16, I don't know. But it's gapping to $11. I don't like that so much. Let's see. Jose. And then Jose asking about G Gal. Yeah, beautiful. Daily, weekly, monthly. Closing breakout. Gapping up a little bit. Yeah, looks great. All right, so I'm going to get rid of SCU. And we'll put old G Gal there. Earnings turnaround. Well, I checked earnings and it showed it in 2 months, I think. Korean steelmaker, interesting. Never heard of him. Elon. It's bullish. You know, had a big gap and closing breakout. So sure, it's a weekly 1, 2, 3. And then JWN, yeah, JWN's on my list over here already. There's a couple retailers. JWN is one. Yeah, I have them up here somewhere. But yeah, JWN looks good too. So yeah, 3 for 3 there, Jose. I like them all. All right, did I get through all these? Oh, I had JWN right here. It's coming up next. Yeah, I got it off Alex's list. All right, insight here, big old bottoming pattern. Now we don't trade breakouts from consolidation, bottom of the range to the top, but it's bullish daily, weekly. So now I have to look for a continuation pattern, or I'll check like the $62 puts to sell. I'll do it right now real quick. And, you know, I go through my checklist and it's immediately vetoed without even checking earnings. The 6250s are 35 by 270. Just preposterous spread. So you got to wait for continuation to go long. It's a swing trade. Our gold here in the gold department, nice breakout, bullish consolidation for a week and a half. USFD, strong uptrend. Look at all these moving averages. And we'll see if it can chop around sideways a little more. VTR, bullish, daily, weekly, monthly. And those are those two. AMC had some news. A judge did not approve. Yeah, Greg, you know, my technology problems, but yeah, my speaker is out on my laptop now. It's been making weird sounds over the weekend too. I'm like, what's going on here?
Seems like you got a lemon, Dan. You should get your money back or exchange, man.
Yeah. All right, why did my TT alarm just go off? I don't see any prints. But TT is a buy setup on my list. I don't know why the alarm went off. 5 alarm went off. This is a call spread candidate. Newell. Newell is a long call idea over Friday's time. Let me set a new alarm. APD alarm. All right, Newell is over. All right, so Newell is triggering APD alarm. We are in this already. This was bullish price action that we got into half lot Thursday, half lot Friday. Ulta alarm. We're short this already, so I like alarms going in our favor for obvious reasons. So this is nice relative weakness down 350. Oh, that looks beautiful. All right, so we can just go into trial mode now. Set a new up alarm for 60.